bringing me to these old, dusty theaters and watching all these black and white films.
Well, you say that, Andres Lorente. I seem to remember we watched Hundreds of Beavers only a few weeks ago, which is black and white.
Oh, that's right. Oh,
I'm glad you're here because we urgently need to talk about some 70-year-old films that. Did you see? I think you saw this same article that I did in the Hollywood Reporter.
yeah.
About old films and how hard it is to see them.
Yeah.
Or at least, I mean, this is part of the reason why I'm dragging you to these old theatres with old black and white movies, because it's hard to see these old movies. So this is a piece. I've got it here. Wait a second. So Benjamin Svetky. So this is from the Hollywood Reporter from the end of February this year. He's written an article which says how streaming is making us all cinema illiterate.
Yeah.
So like the gist of the story, basically he points out, he says here, I've written a couple of quotes. Right now there are 4,000 movies on Netflix, any type of film, except for one, movies made before 1973. As of January this year, the oldest non-Christmas themed feature in Netflix's catalogue was The Sting from 1973. And supposedly, in the US at least, there are no older films on Netflix.
73, so that's 52 years?
52 years ago, yeah.
And you mentioned the 70-year-olds. I mean, that's so many people call that the golden age, those like 50s into the early 60s.
So, I mean, like there were all the studio pictures from the 40s.
Yeah, even earlier, yeah.
And supposedly, like, the 70s was supposedly the last heyday for Hollywood. But there's a whole bunch of, great old movies, which are a little bit harder to see. So this guy Svetky, he kind of says he says that Netflix has crunched the numbers and determined that its 300 million subscribers are not interested in movies made before The Sting.
Wow.
So it just doesn't show them.
Okay, well, I'm a curmudgeon. I'm a crank. I'm old. So for me, yes, I'm offended. If you're some young kid though, in your 20s or 30s even, that's a long time ago. That's long before they were born, and they just look different, right? Yeah, I think it's too bad. I was thinking when I read this article, I thought a couple of things, like things enter public domain. I forget at what point. Like, is it 75 years automatically?
Yeah, I think it varies in different countries. It's like 75, 80 years, sometimes 95 years. It kind of depends on what it is.
So I wonder if it's in public domain, does it make sense to charge money via subscription or one-time viewing on a streaming service? If someone can get it somewhere else for free. And I was wondering if that was the thinking behind it. But, to go 50 years back, there's a lot of great films that are in the 60s, where if you go back another 10 years, you're getting a whole lot of good films. So it's a little disturbing in that way. And I think, obviously some streamers are specialty for the older stuff. Turner Classics used to be that, so I don't know if it's Turner, it's probably TBS. If there a TBS online streaming service or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I did do a bit of research on this. So first of all, as far as the UK goes, this is not correct. There are older films than that
on Netflix,
on the UK service.
Oh,
so I mean, in the UK, there are films from 1917, from 1919.
Yeah.
But they are strange, kind of odd old films.
Yeah.
There's like so you can watch Sir Arne's Treasure, which is a Swedish drama from 1919.
Wow.
Or you can watch A Man There Was, which is another Swedish black and white film from 1917. So there's like these kind of weird old Swedish black and white films. Yeah. There is a small amount of very old cinema. Films that are over 100 years old on UK Netflix. And interestingly, I was looking up to see who. So supposedly, like US Netflix has a library of about 4,000 movies, but the size of the library varies a lot in different places. So apparently, do you know who has the biggest Netflix library in the world? Who has access to more movies and more TV shows than anybody? You won't guess. I bet you won't guess.
I do.
Yeah? Who?
It's that guy with the Starlink satellites, the guy with all the money. Is it that guy?
Or Elon Musk.
Oh, I wasn't going to say that.
That's going to get us flagged up by some kind of algorithm now. Which country's Netflix service
has the most films?
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Sweden. I've heard Sweden twice in this podcast, so Sweden.
Close, alphabetically pretty close. It's Slovakia. weirdly, which has 8,500.
Jeez.
Whereas the UK has just over 8,000. The US has about 6,500 titles.
So what? But Svedke said there were 4,000.
4,000 movies, and the others are sort of TV series.
Okay. Oh, okay. So it's got 2,000 titles of series. Oh, God.
But alarmingly, in the US, so more than half, so about 55% of those 6,600 titles are Netflix originals.
Mm-hmm.
So the size of the library is kind of getting smaller and smaller.
I like to complain about the generations that are younger than I am. So I think that Americans who are younger than I am don't like black and white, and they don't like subtitles. It's a massive generalization, but I think they get turned off. I mean, some of them, obviously, there were color films in the, Wizard of Oz 30s, right?
Yeah.
But certainly by the 50s and 60s, it was all color, mostly color. And now it seems to be, it's a special thing or a quirk. If there's a black and white film like Hundreds of Beavers, they might be doing it for expenses reasons or maybe on an artistic level. But you don't see too many black and white films made anymore without thematically having to be black and white, I guess.
Yep.
But I think, if I know that my stepchildren walk in and they see something in black and white, they're like, what? What century? What are you watching? Why?
Is the TV broken?
Students, yeah, exactly. If my students are watching, if I show them a little bit of black and white, it's like, their interest just immediately wanes. And it's just, I guess they can't imagine a world without color.
I mean, my children have told me, I really don't like the way that people talk in old films.
Yeah.
It puts me off. So, I like any grumpy old dad, that just makes me roll my eyes. I think this whole argument about how Netflix doesn't have any old films is a bit disingenuous, though, really, because I kind of feel like the Netflix, it's like the McDonald's of streaming services, isn't it? Or if not, McDonald's, it's like the shopping mall food court of streaming services. So now you can't really go to the mall food court and complain, wow, they haven't got pufferfish sushi. I want sheep's milk cheese fondue. They haven't got it. This is outrageous, because that's not what they do, is it?
Yeah, it's not.
That's kind of not what Netflix is aiming to do. But pufferfish sushi is available at other restaurants.
Yes.
I wrote down here that, in my notes here, I wrote, this article is written like we all live in a one-horse town where there's no other way to eat out. But actually, we all live in the equivalent of downtown Paris. If you're prepared to travel 2 blocks, you can eat incredible food from anywhere in the world. I did a little experiment. So, you can't find, if you search for, Hitchcock or Billy Wilder or Howard Hawks, you can't find anything like that on Netflix.
Yeah.
But you can get Double Indemnity on Amazon. You can get The Big Sleep on Amazon and Apple. You can get Apocalypse Now on the Sky Store in this country. You can watch The Conversation on the BBC iPlayer for free. So, I mean, there are a whole bunch of streaming services, which means that old films are available.
Yeah.
But the difference is that Netflix won't serve them up to you
precisely
as a recommendation. It won't just kind of flick them in your face randomly and say, hey, why not watch this?
Yeah.
So I think the issue isn't so much availability as discoverability. Is that a word?
It is.
It is. It is now.
It has been for at least 12 seconds now. So it's a word. You've done it. Of course, it has to be a word. I like what you're onto here. I fear that, like everything else, we're hitting this era of monopolization, and I think like if anyone gets too big in their britches, Netflix could like absorb them or buy them out. It's happened with Disney owns Hulu and other stuff now too, and it's just like if you don't have a subscription with one of them, you can't get all of them, and that's the wrong direction for me. I like what you're saying is that you can use a variety of platforms. I'd rather pay $2 and $3 a time to watch something on. It could be on a Netflix or Amazon. Or I watch stuff on Google and YouTube all the time, as opposed to paying a subscription again and again. You're paying all this money every month. That seems like I think that's going to become outdated. I think if you have true freedom in the market, then you'd be, some people would own the rights to projecting certain things, and then you could buy them one at a time. And I would think the prices might come down as well. And that might even affect the subscription prices if there's more competition in that way. So I do fear that the natural inclination is to monopolize and just buy up other companies, and then you become the only one, and then you have to sell, have to buy a subscription to get in. But you're just pissing away money in most of those cases. I mean, for me, I'm pretty limited. I'll watch, a film a week or something like that. So for me, if I'm spending $3 each time I watch something on Google Play, that makes more sense than spending whatever it is for Netflix for the entire month, and then you're only locked into that. So then I'm only watching stuff on Netflix. I'd rather have more variety. Wait, well, the restaurant metaphor goes like this. I want to have menus from a number of different restaurants and then choose my takeout depending on my desire for that night.
Yeah, rather than paying a subscription to the pizza place and having them just slot pizzas through your letterbox every day, whether you want them or not.
And that's I remember the days where I did do that with Netflix. I would get 3 discs in a nice little envelope at a time, and then they would send me the next ones on my list. I really loved the original Netflix. I know that's probably very Luddite right now and not kosher, but they had a lot of stuff. In fact, I was surprised when they didn't have stuff. So anything that hasn't been digitized from the VHS era or the actual reel era, is very hard to get now because and then it had to be on a DVD by that point, but. Since then, I don't know how much stuff has been digitized from, original reel. That's another thing, is there might not be that much available by comparison. I mean, now everything's going to be digital or digitized and on any platform you can find.
There is still a market for discs. I mean, Criterion do, they go to the effort of making nice editions and sourcing good prints and trying to get old movies looking as good as they can, because they know there's a small but enthusiastic audience who will spend money on these discs, even though most people will not. I mean, how you and I have seen loads of old films. Yeah, we've seen loads and loads of old films. How did we used to see them? How come we watched a whole bunch of old films?
I think a lot of it was on. So regular television, broadcast television, is how we saw a bunch. And that, this is something that has sort of disappeared, which makes no sense to me. In part because a lot of this stuff is in public domain, but old films should be on TV late at night or any time of day. The fact that there are shopping networks and not old movie networks is just pathetic to me. It's appalling. So I think that there's a world where a TV station could just show old films and do very well, things from public domain. We have some TV stations here that just show old TV programs, the old series like Bob Newhart or MASH and all that, just nonstop Star Trek. And I love that station. And, that's over the air. You can do that with an antenna. So I think there's a business plan there, or definitely a market for a station that just did that all the time. Mostly I saw it on television. I used to go to the library and get VHS and DVDs. I lived in a couple places where the libraries themselves had projected 16 millimeter and 8 millimeter films that they would show, like a film series every kind of semester and a summer series or whatnot. And I'm lucky enough to live in a neighborhood where I've got a couple places like that right now, but that's a real fortune for me. But I imagine you're the same way. You probably saw a lot. BBC was great. Even when I was living in BBC, I saw on BBC Two late at night. There'd always be a film on. Absolutely.
There was the way that I sort of saw my kind of early films was either through watching them on TV. So the BBC had this series called Moviedrome from the late 80s.
Oh, nice.
I looked it up. It ran until 2000, where every Sunday night they would show these kind of cult films.
Yep.
Presented by Alex Cox. And a whole nation of British film enthusiasts would set their VCRs to record Moviedrome on a Sunday night.
Yeah.
And you'd kind of end up recording all sorts of fascinating, esoteric, interesting, surprising movies, like a whole world of cinema which you wouldn't otherwise pick up on. And then, just like you're saying, it's the local video shop was after that then. So things that weren't on television.
Yeah, good point
there. The local video shop. Our local video shop when we lived in Earlsfield was called, I think it was called Prime Video, which means something different now, doesn't it?
Yes.
But I think, at the time, that was the place where you could go and you could get either VHS tapes or DVDs. And then about halfway through the time that we were living there, they just sold off or gave away all the VHS tapes and went purely DVD. But they had, it felt like hundreds of foreign films and interesting little scene films, like published for imprints by Criterion and BFI. Artificial Eye had those little silver had those silver DVD boxes which I recognize on the shelf. It was like a real library where you could go and look at the spines of the books. Here you could look at the spines of the DVDs. You could peruse them and pick them up and read the back. You could walk into Prime Video and you could get the sensation that there were 4,000 films in the room. Yeah. And there was like a whole world of cinema to choose from. Yeah. Whereas when I turn on Netflix, I have no idea how big the library
That's
is.
true.
Maybe Netflix has also got 4,000 movies, but I can only see about 6 of them at once. Yep. It's like going to the library and someone tells you, you can pick any book you want, but you can only choose by looking down this long, narrow tube. Yes. So you just got to range the tube around the room, and you can only see 6 spines at once. And the thing that infuriates about Netflix is that if they do have a library of 4,000 movies, how come it's only the same 20 that keep turning up again and again and again? If I scroll to the right, eventually, we're back to the same ones again. Again. If you scroll down, it's the same movies again. Are they really? They've only got 20 films. It's a very frustrating experience. I think part of the problem is it's my new favorite word, discoverability.
Oh, discoverability.
I could go to Prime Video and I could just run my fingers down the shelf and think, okay, well, let's watch this. I've got no idea what it is. Yeah. Which you can't kind of do that with Netflix. It reminds me of this great thing that just happened to happen on Sunday. We were going down for a family dinner and the children were in the back of the car and they said, can we have some music on because we're bored? So just turned the radio on and they were playing some kind of slightly ludicrous late 90s song. And we all kind of laughed at this ludicrous, crazy sort of 30-year-old song which came on the radio, which is not something that anyone would have chosen, not that any of us would have chosen to find on Apple Music and stream. And you have the joy of someone who is a DJ who's choosing the music for you and playing you things that you probably wouldn't have chosen, but then which you enjoy. And you kind of need the same thing for your Netflix, I think, a curator who will say, you've probably never heard of this, but why don't you watch this?
Ooh, I like that.
But the curatorship currently in Netflix seems to be dreadful. Basically, it just assumes that I want to watch Stranger Things or Stranger Things again.
So there could be a James Rosica set list kind of thing where...
Yeah, Spotify has playlists. Yeah. Netflix needs playlists. That's what it needs.
They probably do. I mean, obviously it's a lot longer than a song playlist. But they need something. I hate searching for films on these services because you're typing in one letter at a time and I've got fat thumbs and I can't figure it out. And then I end up getting some other film that I didn't want and then I just quit. Turn it off. Don't watch it. And I think there's a certain level of expertise that's missing now. I love the fact that you were talking about the old Blockbusters or the video stores because there were people who loved films hanging out there and people working there. So it was a human experience. We don't have so many human experiences anymore because you had to interact with someone and give them your money and talk to them a little bit about it. And Quentin Tarantino would have been working in a video store in the 70s or 80s or whatnot. And, you're going to run into someone like that who knows stuff. And the reason he knows stuff is because he's been looking at these movies and studying them. And he can probably recommend anything. So you're missing that kind of level of expertise and that personal touch that we just don't have anymore at all. And it's algorithm. It's all robots that are telling you what to watch. And a lot of people just follow the algorithms, don't they? I mean, if I like that, I should like this and what not. And this is the next thing came up for me, and I'm just going to let it run. And all of a sudden, I'm watching some other series that maybe I have no interest in, but it was recommended, so I'm watching it. So I think the personal touch is long gone, and the idea of actually getting out of a car or walking up to a place and then combing through, and you've got for those 4,000 films, and you've got to choose 2. How do you do that? It was a different experience entirely.
I slightly question this notion that young people can't watch old films because I was doing a little back of the envelope calculation. So Star Wars is 48 years old.
Yeah.
and kids can still happily watch Star Wars. And admittedly, I think, some kids kind of think Star Wars is an old movie, and it kind of is an old movie. Some people think Star Wars is a classic movie, and I'm prepared to argue about that. But nonetheless, it is a film from 48 years old, which still has a degree of currency. Imagine being a child watching Star Wars when it first came out. Well, 48 years before that, 48 years before 1977 was 1939.
Oh, what a year.
So, so Gone with the Wind, Wizard of Oz, Stagecoach. That's all 1939.
Gunga Din.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, what an incredible year for film, 1939.
Wizard of Oz. Did you already mention that? I think you did.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. But keep up. But the notion that a young person today should be expected to watch Star Wars is only the same as suggesting that a kid who enjoyed Star Wars ought to be able to watch Gone with the Wind.
Yeah.
And I think, actually that's a perfectly reasonable proposal. I don't see why The Wizard of Oz, or Stagecoach is inaccessible for a young person today.
Yeah.
It's perfectly possible. I don't know whether is it a cultural barrier that is it? I'm going to blame short form video again. Is it because TikTok has rotted our brains that we can't sit and watch a movie from 1939?
Yeah, well, I'm curious how many people are actually even watching hour and a half stuff anymore, 2-hour films. It seems to be mostly series and as you said, TikTok. I mean, some of the series, I guess, are hour-long episodes or whatnot, but I think the attention spans have definitely diminished. There's the trickery of, more camera work these days, more like amazing segments and sequences and a crazy direction that you don't have in the old days when the cameras were huge and you had to really set them and move them a little bit, but you couldn't do it a lot. So I think there's generally a different look that we expect now.
Yeah, I guess. Although, I mean, Stagecoach has got that famous sort of crash zoom, hasn't it? And The Wizard of Oz has got plenty of camera trickery, and I think those things still sort of exist. I think. I
mean, ultimately, if the story is good, it's going to capture someone's attention, and they're going to watch the whole thing. I think so. That's the other key element here. Yeah, I agree with you. I think if you're not watching films before 1973 or whatever we're saying, you're missing out on a whole lot of films. So I do have one solution to the curatorship problem. Which is
maybe a small number of witty and well-informed podcast hosts could be the guide for a younger generation to go and see some old movies.
Oh yeah, is that a paid position?
Sadly, it doesn't seem to be at the moment. No, funny that.
I love that idea. Yeah, well, I think that is kind of it. I mean, ultimately, it wouldn't be us. I think if Johnny Depp curated a list or some directors, Martin Scorsese curated a list, I think they would probably have a better go of it. But I think we could start up the Two Reel Cinema Club set list.
Excellent idea.
Curatorship set list.
We'll put it on the blog. Or even better, we could launch a series of podcasts about old and new movies.
Oh my God. Oh my goodness. And then we'd send out the messages that it's playing by carrier pigeon.
Yeah, I think the young people will respond to that.
That would be awesome. We are starting to sound like old crotchety guys who go in to watch black and white films.
We have found our level.